I'm very rarely allowed to speak. I came here in 2004, which was before me, and I know from the stories I've heard and also from my own experience that he has taken forward social work in such a huge way, and he rescued, if you like, a very difficult service and difficult set of circumstances, and has made a real success out of our social work services, I think. Not by himself, he's had a huge team behind him, and I'm sure he'll be the first one to say that. But he's also made a massive contribution at the corporate level. Andrew has led an awful lot of partnership activities in the borders, and his legacy will go on for a long, long time. I don't think Andrew's finished in the field of social work at all. I think he will continue.
Sure that what we were doing in children's services was focused on the best for each individual child. I've enjoyed working with him immensely, and he's without doubt one of the most talented, creative and supportive managers that I've ever known. So I thought I'd tell you just a few sort of snippets of things that have actually gone on with Andrew, because they've been exciting things. Our first child protection inspection back in 2007 saw Andrew with his wall chart plotting our results against those across Scotland. Not that we were competitive. Not that we're supposed to be doing this, but imagine how annoyed he was when we were bumped off third place right at the end. I still remember that word. He was endlessly available for our children and young people. Happy to wear t-shirts, play games on the floor, eat pizzas and treat each child with enormous respect that they deserve. Princesses, and yes, we've got a picture somewhere with Princess Anne. Politicians, and there were lots of those. Celebrities, Andrew is comfortable with all of them, and his burning passion for social work always shines through, as did his flamboyant dress sense. I'm still not sure about the image. One colleague commented to me, to beard or not to beard, that is the question. Andrew's appearance can be changeable. The clean-shaven, the goatee, the full beard looks, all gracing the office. If Andrew had a rare extended break, it's never quite certain what he'll look like on his return. Weekend Andrew, complete with earring and bright clothes, can further promote the theory that Andrew is indeed a fugitive in hiding, perhaps making some French guy who's a bit buried. We do have some creative comedians in the department as well. Andrew agreed to the Georgian Justice Minister taking home a pop-up pirate from the family centre in Galashiels. This followed Andrew ensuring SPC flew the Georgian flag over HQ in honour of their visit. At home in Scotland, England or in Europe, Andrew. So in January 2010, Andrew hitched a lift on a snowplow from People's HQ, and he described it as every schoolboy's dream. That work actually had some of those dreams. And I remember his real pleasure at the appointment of Councillor Renton as the SBC's first children's champion. That felt like it was a real move forward for us. We'll all miss him very much, and Scottish Board of Social Work will be a lot less exciting without him. And I'm very sorry that you're leaving us, Andrew, but I'm also very pleased that you'll be moving on to other new and exciting things.
Andrew's been, and I've learned a lot from him, as I'm sure everybody else in this room has. He's been a leader, and he's led by example, and I think all of us have been able to identify with that and learn from that. I also have the pleasure of being involved in ADSW, and I know he's very respected in that sort of national field as well. And in terms of the integration agenda, he's really championed social work values as part of that, and that's a sort of national legacy that we'll keep with us as we move forward. I'm going to have a quick chat with some of my colleagues, some of who can't be here today, in terms of things that they remembered about Andrew. Certainly in terms of the staff, I think one of the things that we'll all remember is his doodles, isn't it? Really? You know, and you just hope it's not you trying to draw with red. But having said that, you think he's away with the fairies, kind of, oh yeah, let's do that. And then suddenly he comes out with such a kind of a nuance. You think, gosh, he's really been listening in there. Sometimes I think that may not be the case, but he's a regular visitor to St Ronan's, and Margaret Purvis, who can't be with us today, said, dare I say, the night he walked into St Ronan's in his slippers. to log on to their computer to find they were not networked. So, and St. Run's, I think, expected Andrew at any time because it's his nearest kind of care home, and whenever he needed anything, he was popping down there. And not long after that, they did manage to get all our care home net. So he made something happen for the care homes when he was here. And as Margaret also said, there was a time when she responded to an email on a Sunday lunchtime, and Andrew responded saying, you shouldn't be emailing because you should be sitting down to your roast dinner, and you need to get your work-life balance sorted. And her comment was, actually, what about yours then? So she's really sorry that she can't be with us. The other thing I was asked to mention by another member of staff is Gwyneth, and she's not here either. But Gwyneth asked me to mention the marigolds. And she said the message is that I have the marigolds in my drawer for future emergencies. And I've had a little bit because you might misconstrue that comment, but Andrew will
explain.
What happened was when Winnie was closing and Dovecot was opening, the builders went in and they made a mess of the flats. So, I mean, representing people's social work team were really great as well. Gwyneth, Barbara Hood, Sam Wellington and Katrina Hogg all went down to clean 30 flats, ready for the occupancy by the older people who were going there. And they all got the marigolds on, and I must just say, it's probably the most expensive cleaners the council have actually employed as part of that process. But Andrew, being Andrew, he's about these things, so he gets down there and meets up with him. Is that right, Andrew? Yeah, and thereafter nicknamed Gwyneth the lady with the marigolds. So that's where that comes from. But she said her riposte would be that she took a leaf out of Andrew's book when at times you just need to roll up your sleeves and do the job yourself, and that's very much what Andrew was about. He just got in there and dealt with things. I just want to mention from service users and carers, he had a great rapport with people that we worked with learning disabilities. I went out with him and everybody knew Andrew and everybody wanted to shake his hands. And he really, really championed the people that we worked for. And if you see Andrew deal with complaints, the way he dealt with people with respect and honesty and empathy, then I think that said a lot over the years in terms of the department. And we'll miss that, and I think all the people that we work with will also miss Andrew as much as we do as staff. So I too want to just wish Andrew a healthy retirement. I'm sure he will continue to contribute to social work at all sorts of levels, and I'm sure we will all miss him.
I hope you like it. Actually, I've got a few things I do want to say. Because this has been the job of my life, working with you people. I've loved it more than I can say, and but that isn't going to stop me trying to say it, so bear with me. I first came to the Borders on a bus from Fife in the winter of 1975. I travelled with my wife Ruth to stay in digs in Balmoral, Galashiels, in a council house. We stayed with a Polish-Irish family, and I learned a lot about the Polish contribution to the Borders. But the colleagues that had sent us had a mischievous sense of humour, because I was a kind of Trotskyite, long-haired troublemaker, and they sent me to a placement with nuns at St Mary's Balmoral. And they sent my wife to St Aidan's in Gattonside to work with monks and holy orders. And I think there was a deliberate kind of attempt to put some grit in the Minster. But it was great. I met some lovely people there, including a young CPM from Dingleton, Steve Fox, who now runs Alzheimer's in the Borders. I learned about the proud claim of Dingleton Hospital to be the first mental hospital to throw open its doors when Dr. George Bell abolished locked wards in 1951. Also, Dr. Maxwell Jones developed therapeutic communities at Dingleton in 1962. So I was very excited and fascinated by the possibilities of the Borders and the blend of historic continuity and radical potential that was offered here. It seemed an exciting opportunity. My career took me to Leven, in Fife, to Dundee, Newark-on-Trent and Nottingham. In Leven I learned the wisdom, sincerity and kindness that we can and should learn from men and women with learning disabilities. The greatest honour of my ADSW presidential year was that Bob, Roberta and Eileen, 3 men and women with learning disabilities, agreed to travel from Leven in Fife up to Crieff to support me when I made that speech. And they made a little film to tell all of these directors in Scotland how their lives had changed over the last 40 years. And I think it wasn't just me that found that quite a moving experience. In the wake of the Children Act, I took a case to the House of Lords. And this is just to prove it's not all winning stories. We tried to protect 3 young girls from sexual abuse by their father by taking prohibited steps. And we lost the case 3-2. 2 lords found in our favour. It was an extraordinary experience over 5 days in London. We lost, but we did our best. And I guess in social work, that's all we can ever hope to do. In Nottingham, I had a lot of varying experiences, dealing with Legionnaire's disease, tragic teenage suicide, Munchausen syndrome by proxy. We had satanic abuse. An aeroplane crashed on the M1. I had to deal with the M1 disaster, which happened in the area where I worked. Well, Nottingham Forest football ground was in the area that I worked in. We had to deal with all of the tragedy of that. And my final act in Nottingham was to work with a community that was riven by a drive-by shooting that had killed a 14-year-old girl, Danielle Beckham. So a lot of experiences, some of them tragic, some of them wonderful. But I tried to bring all of that experience to the management of problems in the borders, and I tried to give confident leadership out of the difficulties we faced in the wake of the Miss-Ex affair. But of course, it's not all about problems. The most important task for a director is to think strategically, to anticipate tomorrow's issues and to plan to meet them. Experience in Nottingham developing an extra care housing complex in a village for 360 older people helped to inform my thinking on the future needs in the borders. And in 2006, I travelled to Nottingham with Councillor Sandy Scott, with Bob Howarth, with John Glennie and Peter Lee from Eildon to look at the model. So in 2013, earlier this year, it was with great pride that I went to Dovecot Court with a marigold instrument to see that we've now got our own model of extra care housing, and that people who had been residents were now tenants and had some control over their own lives. And I met a couple who had been required to live separately because she needed residential care, he didn't. That was no longer an issue, and they were reunited as a family. And I think that kind of work is the kind of work that motivates many of us in social work. In 2006, we commissioned housing for a group of men and women with complex needs. We did this in the teeth of some political and professional opposition, and in doing so transformed the lives of a dozen people who were thought incapable of living outside of a closed institution. Within 4 years, one of them, Ian MacDonald, carried the Olympic torch through Berwickshire, sponsored by, I hasten to add, his archery club, not by the social work department. He was now a member of the Duns community, sponsored by his archers club to carry the torch. And another, Morag Blakey, led a very successful campaign to improve access to the Bank of Scotland in Duns. Councillor Renton's here, but she played a big part in that. But it was led by Morag Blakey, a disabled woman written off to live in a large institution who now lived in her own community and wasn't satisfied to do a banking business on the pavement because the bank couldn't get it together to provide her with access. So that was really important. In 2008, I gained member support for a proactive response to the tragedy of Baby P in London and Brandon Muir in Dundee. We took what was then an unusual step of inviting an independent consultancy to review our child protection procedures, to check that they were fit to meet the new circumstances. And where we found problems, and we did find some, we were backed by Scottish Borders Council with resources to improve the service and to make the improvements. And in that proactive way, we kept ahead of these problems. And I would commend that as a practice to all of you, to always look ahead on those things. But most of all, it's been a great pleasure working with you all. Whether it's home care worker Anne Jackson letting me shadow her on a home care round in Melrose in 2005, and I saw a photograph of it back there a few minutes ago, or whether it was the privilege of giving a workshop at a national conference with More Agony from Station Court, which we did in Glasgow in 2010. I've sought to develop a common purpose, a sense of team based on sound values and principles of equality and inclusion. We now look to an era of integration. Children's services have been integrated since 2010. We achieved this thanks to close and trusting partnership I was able to develop with Glenn Roger. It's a partnership I value very greatly. And by the commitment shown by Stella, Yvonne and Jackie to this new and different way of working. This trend to integration will intensify significantly in the new world, partly for endogenous reasons and partly as a result of the Public Bodies Joint Working Bill, which is going through Parliament at the moment and will see statutory requirement to integrate adult social care with health services. At the same time, criminal justice social work is coming home with the published intention of the Scottish Government to abolish the CJA and return governance to the local authority. Finally, housing strategy, which I was very proud to lead for 8 years. Housing strategy has been incredibly important part of what we've been able to develop in social work, but it's now going to be integrated with other key engines of economic development and regeneration to form a strong forward force within the borders. I commend that. So how should you all respond to this helter-skelter of change and reformation? My advice, whether you want it or not, don't get it, is to embrace this agenda with energy and with vigour. You've embarked on a new journey with new opportunities. Having worked with government on these proposals for several years, I know their motivation is sound. I also know that the desire to integrate is found in all the major parties in Scotland and all the nations across the UK, so it's going to happen. Like many of us in this room, I've spent my entire career at the interface between the local authority and the NHS. It's not always a comfortable place to be for any of us who are there, but we always know that we make the most progress for people we're concerned about, when we work effectively together. My concern would be that the rhetoric of integration is too often concerned with systems, efficiencies and targets. While they're important, it's more important to never lose sight of the moral purpose of our work. To this end, I've worked with others to commend an amendment for stage 2 of the bill to make clear reference to quality, safety and values. Never ever allow yourselves to be persuaded to depart from the values that underpin social work. Values of empowerment, inclusion and equality. They're fine words and they're given meaning by listening and putting the person in front of us at the centre of our thinking. Our founding statute developed a unique response to social need in Scotland, and it has generally served us well over 44 years. It underpins everything we do and have done since 1969. And I've now become the last of the 4 directors of social work to serve the borders since 1969. But I won't be the last Chief Social Work Officer. The Council has wisely recognised the need to create a new role of Chief Social Work Officer, with appropriate seniority and the opportunity to advise and influence the continued development of our work. Tracy and elected members have set the new direction. With her leadership and your support, I'm confident that SPC will meet the coming challenges and emerge in good shape. So I want to thank everyone who's made this a great 9 years for me. To the home care team in Newcastleton, who provides such special service to their isolated community. To the children at home at Wheatlands, where the children and staff work so well together and where the cook won an award, not for catering, but for caring. To the staff of Dunmanny Lodge and Marchmont House, who took on the challenge of change and moved with their residents to empowering new models of independent living, where they now support tenants, where they used to support residents. And it's enabled them to be freed up in their thinking. To the men and women of Kings Meadows Enterprises who provide Tweedo with the best mobile link service in the Borders. I'd like to thank Communications and in particular Sue Bell. When I came in 2004, we desperately needed to communicate with each other. There was great pockets of staff working in isolated settings. We wanted to be joined up to feel that we've got a common purpose. Whether you worked in Eyemouth or Newcastleton or Peebles. And I think with the help of comms, we've developed a means of communicating, both the Supporting Frontline Staff Initiative and the quarterly newsletter. Don't ever let the finance convener tell you it's too expensive to have a staff newsletter. I think those things are invaluable. They join us up, they make us feel one. So thank you to comms. To Lorna McDermott, a special thank you. People who know me well know how chaotic I am, shambling late, short attention span, all the rest of it. Lorna has always made sure that I'm scrubbed up and there on time. Lorna, thank you very much. You've been invaluable, and to all of the admin team and the support teams, whether it's administration or finance or legal personnel, we can't do it without you, and I'm truly grateful for all the help I've had. But I want to say something about social workers, those who go out each day to intervene where others fear to tread, to supervise sex offenders, to protect children, to assess whether people with mental health problems represent a danger to themselves or to other people, to find new substitute families for children, and sometimes for adults. Theirs is a very honourable job and often is under fire, so I want to say thank you to them. But now I'm going and I leave you in the capable hands of Stella and Elaine, who've done so much good work in my absence over the past 2 years. And of course they did most of the good work in my presence. So on the road when I've not been here. To all our staff and partners, I see Callum from the NHS and I can see Kenny from the police. It's lovely to see you here. I'm so touched that you should take the trouble. Thank you. Our partners, to our carers, to our service users. It's you who make social work great. Thank you very much.